But I really had to, what works for me, I had to pray and ask God to not let the old me show up, and for me to do something violent and maybe something that I didn't think about at the time, but something that would have took me away from my kids. God told me to let that go. God saved that man's life. Hello, Governor. This is Rick High-State, New from the Ville. Welcome back. I'm going to be talking about one of the most destructive and powerful emotions that we have. Vengeance. When you've been betrayed, when you've lost everything that you hold dear, isn't that first thought that you have to make them pay? But what happens when that fire for revenge burns so hot that it threatens to consume everything that you are? What do you sacrifice to get your vengeance? And how do you maintain your integrity when all you want to do is lash out? I'm taking a media therapy deep dive into Chief of War, Season 1, Episode 3, City of Flowers, Part 1. Having just survived a devastating betrayal, Kayana finds himself in a new, strange, and dangerous world, and he's forced to fight just to stay alive. I'll explore his internal struggle in this episode as he grapples with his thirst for revenge from the king that betrayed him, all while being a man who has to make impossible choices in a world that doesn't respect his honor. Get ready to challenge your assumptions about revenge and integrity and discover what it truly takes to fight for honor when your world is falling apart. Let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, I was doing some work. I've worked in computers and coding for quite a while, and a lot of it was self-taught. So I was doing work for a company for this guy who I had a semi-friendly relationship with, I guess. They gave me a retainer, and he wanted 4 websites built. He didn't give me a lot of guidance, so I went and put together like the bare bones, the frames of what he wanted for these 4 different business ventures. He finally got with me, gave me some more guidance, said they had some things coming up. He wanted a rush job, but if I could get it done quickly, I'd get a bonus. So all in all, when it shook out, they have 4 websites completely built out. And I say, okay, the remaining bill is $5,000. And I was very clear with the terms. We had some documents signed. They weren't notarized or anything like that. They didn't go through a lawyer and have legalese, but they were binding. They were written out contracts. He started giving me some excuses, some soft shoe about he needed them, and once he got this, then I would get my money. But it was right about the time that I think Wix came out, or it got real popular. And so he started to devalue my contribution and what I did. And he was like, well, anybody can do it. And I was like, well, okay, then you do it. But at the end of the day, you're gonna need to run me my money. So another guy that I was actually really cool with, and is how I got this opportunity to work with these dudes, he sent me a message. And he was like, hey, you didn't hear it from me. But it was an audio talking about how these dudes were gonna get over on me. They're gonna get the websites, because I'd given them a preview page, like a landing page, so they could see what was coming. And it was like, yeah, they weren't gonna pay me. So I killed all 4 websites. Left the addresses up there, but when you went to the websites and went to every page, I went in and covered every page. So it looked like all 4 websites were absolutely blank. And so dude called me going off because now this is messing with his business deal. I said, I ain't got nothing to do with that. You ain't run me my money. So then he starts talking crazy to me, like threatening me because I'm costing him money. I was like, how am I costing you money? You ain't paid me my money. And I don't know, he said something over the line, and I don't know what it was, but I lost it. I was like, I don't think you know, because he was a cat from New York or whatever. I'm from LA. The hell? I said, you do know I've been to your house. You have no idea where I live. I know everywhere that you go. I know everybody that you know. I said, this how you want to play this with me? I said, because I'm tell you what, I'm about to pop up. I said, you want to keep talking like that? I don't care where you from. I don't care who you know back in the Bronx or Brooklyn or wherever the hell you from. I'm from Inglewood, fool. So he backed down a little bit, but at this point now, the stove is on. I am hot. Hot like grease. That's one thing you don't do. You don't mess with my kids and you don't mess with my money. Long story short, I didn't get my whole 5. I got a portion and I only turned over one website and a part of another website, and I scrubbed the rest of it. I gave him basically a website and a landing page. But I really had to, what works for me, I had to pray and ask God to not let the old me show up. And for me to do something violent and maybe something that I didn't think about at the time, but something that would have took me away from my kids. God told me to let that go. God saved that man's life. Let's get into it. Hello, God, now this is Rakai Steve, new from the Ville, and we're here to talk about Chief of War, Season 1, Episode 3, City of Flowers, Part 1. Now, if you've been rocking with me for a while, I'll end up probably doing a small recap, but I really don't like to do a long recap. I'm going to go through, I gave you the intro, I gave you the welcome, I gave you a story. I'm going to give you these quotes and then my thoughts, and then we're out of here. But I need you to remember to share this as much as possible. Hit the like button, leave me some comments, and by all means subscribe if you haven't. Now, anybody that knows me knows that I love my quotes, and today I have 2. The first one's from Samuel Johnson, and he says, "Revenge is an act of passion, vengeance of justice. Injuries are revenged, crimes are avenged." The second one came from a great movie that I love called V for Vendetta. And in it, they say, our integrity sells for so little, but it's really all we have. It's the very last inch of us. But within that inch, we are free. I'm going to call today's Media Therapy Deep Dive Next Steps. Now, as we left off of last episode, we saw Kayana on the ship with Captain Mears sailing away from his home. He is now a man out of time, out of place. He ends up in Alaska, and we see him struggling but learning quickly. His partner Tony, the black guy, is helping him out, and we see Kayana in Alaska in snow clothing, learning to hunt with a rifle, what he calls a red mouth. Because, you know, if you shoot someone, the blood comes out their mouth, it's a red mouth weapon. He learns quite a bit while they're at sea. He learns to speak English. He learns a lot about the people that he's with and their culture. You know, in order to understand your enemy, you have to know your enemy. The thing about true integrity, though, it isn't about upholding your values in a world that already understands them, in a world that already honors them. Do you have the strength and courage required to maintain your moral compass when all the external rules have been removed, when they're stripped away? Can you still stand up for who you are and what you believe in when you're a world that's foreign to what you've always known? After this devastating blow of betrayal, and now basically exile, because remember, Kahekili's people still want him. As far as they know, they think he's dead, but they never found a body. And if you never find a body, then the rule of Hollywood is he's still alive. Until we find a body, until we get proof, he's still kicking. This forces Kayana to navigate a new dangerous world that he is not familiar with. And his honor doesn't mean anything. Right now, he struggles with his choices for vengeance. He has to get back because he realizes he has created this monster, this Kahikili. He fell right into his trap. He was gullible for someone that he had once considered a friend, family. So his thirst for vengeance and his struggle for integrity is all that's on his mind. He needs to get back to his family. Because while he's away, he can't guarantee that his family's safe. Kayana is rescued by a British ship after he dove off the cliff. But now he's a man without a country. He's a warrior, a chief, who's stripped of his authority. He's none of that now. As he starts to interact with some of the people on the boat, his integrity doesn't mean anything. And even his main partner on the boat, Tony, he's not even really sure what that means to him because they're still having difficulty communicating. The boat ride is long, so he learns along the way. But he has to find out what makes these enemies of his, the pale skin, what makes them tick. We know without a shadow of a doubt that his character is going to be tested. Even more than maybe it's already been tested. Now this episode is interesting because we are introduced to a new character. We heard of him in the last episode, but now we're introduced to who he is. So our narrative is split. We're still following Kayana, but now we are following a chief on the big island of Hawaii named Kamehameha. He's different. He's a farmer, and he is deeply rooted in what is best for his people. He has vision. He has big ideas, and he doesn't necessarily want the power. The only reason he reluctantly takes the power is to provide and do what's best for his people. When we're introduced to him, there is a test for the warriors that are under Kamehameha's guidance, and they have these huge stones and they're underneath the water, and all of them, I don't want to say fail, but they all quit, and Kamehameha is still underneath the water, perfectly serene, holding that huge rock, and he seems like he was born to do this, made to do this. And all of his guys look around and say, where did he go? Next thing they know, they see him walking up the shore, walking out of the water, still holding the rock. And it's probably been minutes he was under there. So I don't know how anybody can hold their breath that long unless they Percy Jackson or Aquaman. One of the chiefs, Moku, who is Hamanu's father, he comes to Kamehameha and he tells him that his uncle wants to see him. He doesn't have long left for this world. He wants to see him and his cousin, the uncle's son, the prince. They're informed that Kahikili has invaded and conquered Oahu. They know that it's only a matter of time for Kahikili to attack them. The king asked his son and Kamehameha what would they do. And Kamehameha is very humble. He gives away to his cousin Kioa, and he says, listen, he's going to be king. I'll follow him and do what you say. The king's like, I don't want to hear that. I asked you, what would you do? Forget everything else. What would you do? And Kamehameha gives them a history lesson. And he says, last time we were invaded, we lost certain battles because we ran out of food. We ran out of storage. He said, I would store food all over the island so that we're prepared for the battles to come. He said we could starve our opponent out. We can outlast them. Which, if you're a student of history, is the same thing that Saladin did in the Middle East and many other great warriors in battles, regardless of whose side they are. Battle strategists look to the past and learn certain things. Now, I'm not saying that Kamehameha did that because they didn't have books or the internet, but smart strategies always show up. Kiowa says he would lead a group of warriors out to the volcanic flats and face Kahekili in battle and show him who a true warrior is and blah, blah, blah. And there's a whole bunch of beating his chest. And once he hears Kamehameha's plan, he's like, well, even if we did that, your little plan, it would take 9 months to get the food that we need. And Kamehameha was like, I already been doing that. Like, I've got food, huts full of food, storages of food all over near all the religious sites. Kiowa knows that his father loved the plan and saw the vision that Kamehameha had, and he hates it. You can see the disdain in his eyes. He looks like he's embarrassed because he was shown up. You know, Kiowa is impatient. He's arrogant. His uncle listens to Kamehameha because he has a long-term vision for the islands. He provides wise counsel. And as we heard, one of the first things he says is, I don't want to be king. I just want to take care of my people. Kamehameha has a quiet integrity. And even though Kiowa is not about vengeance, his arrogance and lack of humility could lead them to lose everything. The introduction of Captain Mears, who is a historical figure, adds a different layer to this. And with Katyana being with them, he begins to learn more about what it might take to beat Kahekili. Kahekili is back in Oahu, fortifying his defenses with the actual bones of all the people he has defeated in battle. I mean, if that don't say crazy, I don't know what does. Katyana has to learn that even though he's been wronged, how will he use what he has learned and what he knows now to get back home and solve this problem that he helped create and in turn save his family. The thing is, Katyana's new reality is not just a geographical shift. It's an internal battle to reconcile his rage with his honor. This is Rakai Steve, new from the Ville. Make sure that you share this as much as possible. Hit the like button and leave me some comments. Have there ever been any times when you had to choose between vengeance or revenge and integrity? Any times when you flew off the handle and knew that it was too much, that you probably shouldn't have done it? What did you think about this episode? And for some reason you haven't subscribed, it's not too late. Go ahead and subscribe. Just hit the button right down there, subscribe. And then watch all the videos. Maybe you find something that resonates with you. At the end of the day, it's all about this, but it's even more important for you to use this.